Welcome, wellness family. Welcome. Welcome to day 5 of our Making Room to Thrive journey. Oof, man, I can't believe we're already into day 5 of our 10-day declutter, emotional and relational declutter journey. This has been a very healing and very rewarding experience for me. It is very therapeutic for me. And I'm I'm hoping that you're finding value in the information that's been shared with you so far. And if you do find value in the information, I simply ask that you please share with a friend or the family member or with someone you think that can benefit from the information. Okay? So let's get right into it. Man, I'm like I said before, I'm having an incredible time, an incredible learning experience. Um, and so here, day 5 represents letting go of people pleasing. Ooh, let's get into it. So yesterday we focused on making space for what matters, right? And so today we're going to look at one of the emotional patterns that often blocks that space, which is people pleasing. And the theme for today is choosing peace over approval. So important. People pleasing can look like kindness on the outside, but sometimes it is really fear. Um, it can also be guilt. Sometimes it's a habit or the need for approval. Today is not about becoming cold or selfish. It is about becoming honest. It is about noticing where we give away our peace, our time, our energy, and our voice just to keep everyone else comfortable. And so let's take a brief moment to look at the photo, right? If you see in the photo, the mirror photo represents the first step in releasing people pleasing by being honest and self-recognition. This is looks like it's part of her self-examination, right? So she's not only looking at her outer reflection, she's being invited to see the inner pattern where the approval and what we just got finished talking about, guilt or fear may have shaped her choices. And you see it's a very looks like a very calm and peaceful setting. And that in that particular setting, the calm and peaceful setting reminds us that self-examination does not have to be self-condemnation. We can look honestly and still treat ourselves with compassion. And the last point I want to make about this photo is before we can stop abandoning ourselves, we have to be willing to see where we have been doing it. All right. And so people pleasing becomes emotional clutter, especially when our repeated yeses take up the space that's intended for our peace, that's intended for our purpose, and that's also intended for our growth. So every forced yes can add to that emotional clutter. All right. So today we are simply choosing peace over approval. And the goal is not to stop caring about others. The goal is to stop abandoning ourselves. So I invite you to think about this one thing. Think of one place where you say yes, even when your spirit is saying no. And as the bottom of the slide says, I'll leave you with this before we move on to the next slide. You are allowed to honor your own life. Let that sink in for a second. You are allowed to honor your own life. Man, it's another powerful image. Let's talk about the photo right quick. All right, before we get into the actual message of this slide. When I see this, when I look at this slide, I see there's a bunch of look like photos or pictures or figures just floating around, a lot of symbols, right? And the figures and the symbols that's around her represents the invisible demands. It represents the roles, the expectations, the obligations, and the emotional requests that can surround a person who's always trying to please everyone. The photo shows how people pleasing can become mental and emotional clutter, just as the slide suggests. Even when nothing looks chaotic on the outside, you see how everything looks so calm and peaceful. So I'm using this visual to remind us, to remind you, to remind myself that people pleasing often fills our mind before it fills our calendar. Whew, let's go. So as we said, as I stated earlier, people pleasing matters because it becomes emotional clutter. And just like the picture, right? It fills our calendars, it fills our thoughts, and sometimes even our relationships with obligations we never truly chose. We say yes to what? A lot of times, and I used to be guilty of this, but I'm no longer guilty of this, all right? We say yes to avoid disappointing people. We say yes because we do not want to be misunderstood. We say yes because we have been trained to believe that being needed is the same as being loved. But guess what? Every forced yes does what? It takes up space. It takes space from us getting our proper rest. It takes space from us healing. It takes space from purpose. It takes space from our own voice, and over time, the person who always says yes may begin to feel invisible, tired, and resentful. Mm, mm. Whew, this is powerful, family. So, what I'm saying is this: when approval becomes more important than alignment, our boundaries become negotiable and resentment may begin growing beneath our kindness. I invite you, family, to quietly identify one relationship, just responsibility, one responsibility or situation where you may giving where you may be giving away too much of yourself. And let me just remind you that people pleasing is not simply being nice. It can become a pattern of self neglect. Remember this before I go on to the next slide. Let this sink in and marinate in your heart. Every forced yes can become emotional clutter. Every force, yes, can become emotional clutter. Here's another powerful photo, but let me, man, let me see. Let's deal with this photo again. It's because it's really talking to me, right? You see, she looks very calm. It looks like she appears to be journaling, right? She's sitting down. And as you can see, one of the meanings that comes to me right off the bat is that the photo represents the return to the self, right? She's still, she's sitting very still. She's very reflective and she's surrounded by calm instead of pressure, right? So this image supports the message that worth is not earned through exhaustion. The open space that's around her reflects the room we begin to reclaim when we stop disappearing into everyone else's needs. Understand what I'm saying? This is a powerful, powerful photo here. And I want to emphasize that rest, reflection, and just honoring self or self-honoring are not selfish. It's not being selfish. They are part of healing. All right. And so the message for this slide that I want to convey, or the message today is this, is that you do not have to earn your worth through exhaustion, burning yourself out. I've been there, done that. Some of us have been praised for being the dependable one, right? You know who you are. We have been praised for being the strong one, or the one who always shows up, or the one who makes everything easier for everyone else. But if that role requires us to disappear from ourselves, then guess what, family? It is time to examine it. Love, belonging, and respect should never require you or myself to disappear from your own life. Your value is not measured by your level of sacrifice. I'm not sure if you're understanding or hearing me. Your value is not measured by your level of sacrifice. Let me explain. Your goodness is not proven by how often you ignore your own limits. Caring for others should not require abandoning your own health. Caring for others should not require abandoning your peace, abandoning your purpose, or your emotional stability. And I'm here to remind you and here to remind myself, because you're not in this journey by yourself. I'm on this journey with you one step at a time. This is not about becoming selfish. It is about becoming whole. It is about learning that you can be loving and still have limits. You can care and still say no. It's okay, family. You can be generous without being drained. That's what I'm trying to say. Is that you can still be generous without exhaustion, without exhausting yourself, or without being drained. And so, I think, people often confuse self-sacrifice with love. And nah. Again, your value is not measured by your level of sacrifice. The work is to serve from wholeness, not emptiness. All right. And before we move on to the next slide, I want you to remember this. You can be loving and still have limits. You can be loving and still have limits. Let's move on. Next slide. Oh, here's another. Oh man, I'm loving the pictures in these slides. It's very powerful, deep meanings. But let me get into, you know what? Let's talk a little bit about the about what we see here on the screen about the photo before we get into the actual slide. It says check your yes. This is what the slide is about. Check your yes. But before we do that, let's take a moment to really analyze this photo and what it's saying to us in our spirit. I see, what do you see? You tell me what you see. I'm gonna tell you what I see, right? I see a doorway. I see a beautiful woman. She has her hand over her heart. So the doorway image represents a threshold moment. Look how she's standing. She's standing between the looks like the old habit of automatic yes and the new practice of honest choice, right? Her hand near her heart reminds us to do what? To check our inner truth before doing what? Before answering from guilt, fear, or pressure. Look at this visual one more time. And so before you answer outwardly, you listen inwardly. This is where self-examination becomes a turning point. And this is why this photo is so important. So now, so day five, remember we're on day five. Day five invites us to check our yes, as the slide says, right? Not every yes is rooted in purpose. Some yeses come from guilt. Some come from, we said before, it comes from fear. Or some come from the discomfort of disappointing others. That was me. Some come from the belief that we are only valuable when we are useful. And before we keep giving away our time, family, and before we keep giving away our energy and peace, we have to pause and ask, what is really speaking through this yes? Is it love? What is it? Is it fear? Is it purpose? Or is it pressure? Is it alignment? Or is it the need to manage how someone else feels about us? What is it? Sometimes we are not saying yes because we truly want to help. We are saying yes because we are afraid of what someone may think or what someone may say or feel if we decline. Think about that for a second. That's powerful. Imagine what your life, imagine of what your schedule and your emotional health might look like if guilt were no longer making your damn decisions. And this is why self-examination is not always comfortable. But guess what? It gives us our power back, family. This is why self-examination is so important. It's to help us to reclaim our power. And so when we become aware of why we say yes, we can begin choosing more honestly. And so I invite you to evaluate the motive behind your yes. Because a yes can be generous, but it can also be fair, wearing a pleasant face. People pleasing often comes from wanting to avoid conflict, right? rejection, or disappointment. Imagine this. Imagine what you would choose if guilt were not in charge. The goal is not to say no to everything. It is to say yes with integrity. And let's go over some reflection questions. Is this yes coming from purpose or pressure? Am I afraid of disappointing someone? Am I choosing peace or trying to manage another person's reaction? What would I choose if guilt was not in charge? And I leave you with this last statement before moving on. The yes that costs your peace deserves examination. Ooh, whew. Here's another powerful photo. And you see the title of the slide. Oh man, let's talk about this. It says boundaries are not betrayal. They help you love without losing yourself. Ooh, let's talk about it. Okay. Mm, let's see. Let's break down this photo first. What do you see? You see a raised hand, right? Very firm, very strong. So the raised hand image represents a calm, firm boundary, as the slide suggests, right? You see, she's not angry or defensive. She is simply doing what? Communicating direction, right? The doorway matters because boundaries help what? Boundaries help determine what receives access to our peace, to our time, and our emotional space. And so, what I highly recommend or suggest is that in looking at this photo, I wanted to use this visual to reinforce the following message that a boundary is not rejection, it is direction. It teaches others how to approach us in a healthier way. All right. One reason people pleasing becomes difficult to release is because boundaries can feel like betrayal. We may feel like saying no makes us unkind. We may feel responsible for other people's disappointment. That's a heavy burden to carry. We may feel the need to explain ourselves until the other person approves of our boundary. But I'm here to tell you that boundaries are not betrayal, family. Boundaries help us love without losing ourselves. A boundary protects what we are responsible for, and it reminds us that we are not responsible for managing every reaction, every expectation, or every emotional demand placed upon us. All right. A clear no may be the only way, it may be the only way to protect a sacred yes elsewhere in your life as well as my life. So saying no to uh overcommitment may allow us to say yes to getting some rest. Saying no to guilt may allow us to say yes to peace, right? Saying no to unnecessary access may allow us to say yes to healing. So, in other words, our boundary does not require an apology. It does not require a lengthy defense or the other person's approval in order to be valid. Peace deserves protection. Like I stated earlier, peace deserves protection, not apology. A boundary is not rejection. It is what? It is direction. It teaches others how to engage with us in a healthier way. That's what it does. All right. So it's not punishment. They is simply protection. And before I move on, I have another powerful set instruction I want you to let marinate in your spirit. A boundary is not rejection, it is direction. Ooh, it's another powerful photo. But I'm gonna come back to the photo. Let me, ooh, man, this is, hold on. You know what? Let's talk about the photo before we move into um, the actual slide itself. I love the images, the photos, because they all have meaning. You see a young lady, she's journaling, right? Calm state. So the journaling, excuse me, close up, what it reminds me of, it looks like it represents turning reflection into commitment. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Writing makes the invisible visible, right? It helps move the idea from a private realization into an intentional choice. The warm cup and quiet setting, peaceful setting, reminds us to do what? To slow down a little bit, right? To slow down long enough to pause, check, and choose instead of reacting automatically. Use in looking at this photo right here, right? She's writing. What I want you to do is listening to doing. One written, honest choice can begin to reclaim peace. Now we move from understanding the pattern to putting our intention in writing, as you see in the photo here. So writing the answer helps turn a private realization into a visible commitment. And so today's, I would say, journey instead of challenge is simple because I'm going to give you an example. So today's journey is simple. Pause, check, and choose. Pause, check, and choose. And before giving an automatic yes, you're going to do what? You're going to pause. Check what is motivating your response. Then choose what? One honest action that protects your peace without abandoning your integrity. And so, what we're going to do, you and I both, because you're not in this by yourself, right? Complete, you and I, we're going to complete these three statements for yourself. First, the first one, right? First, one place I people please is. Second, the fear behind it may be. Third, one honest choice I can make today is. This does not mean you have to confront every situation at once. The goal, let me be very clear, the goal is not for us to fix every people pleasing pattern today. All right? The goal is simple. The goal is to interrupt one automatic yes. Start with one moment, one pause, one honest answer, one boundary, one choice that reminds you that your phrase matters too. So reflection becomes transformation when it leads to a decision and an action. And let me give you an example. So I'm going to go over what I wrote out. Okay. Follow me on the screen. One place I people please is saying yes to requests when I'm already tired. The fear behind it may be disappointing people. One honest choice I can make today is to say, I cannot commit to that today, but I appreciate you asking. You see that? It's about being honest. So I'm going to leave you with this before moving to the last slide. One honest choice can begin to reclaim your peace. One honest choice can begin to reclaim your peace, family. And we end on this slide right here. As we close day 5, remember this: letting go of people pleasing is not about loving people less. All right. It is about loving yourself with more honesty. It is about learning that you and myself do not have to abandon our peace to prove our care. You do not have to exhaust yourself to prove your value. You do not have to keep saying yes when your spirit is asking for rest, when your spirit is asking for space, or when your spirit is asking for truth. This work is supported by the Wellness Family, where health, well-being, and community reminds us that we do not have to grow alone. And as you see the symbol there, the Ankh reminds us of life right here, and the scarab represents transformation. Both reflect the work we are doing as we release old patterns and choose healthier ways of living. So today, family, give yourself permission to pause before you answer. Give yourself permission to check your motives. Give yourself permission to choose from peace instead of pressure. So, closing affirmation. Repeat after me. I release the need to please everyone. I choose honesty, balance, and peace. Wellness family, keep making room to thrive. I thank you.